All right, this is part 2 of my Titanic or Bambi like interactions with young girls below the age of 18 while I was well above the age of 18. Okay, so let's see here. So I'm trying to think. Um it would be yeah. So Oregon is the number one, the absolute number one state to have the most of what they call sex offenders. In Montana, at least in Helena, Montana, is ranked number 2 or 3 to have the most of what they call sex offenders. When I was locked up in Montana, I heard that the Montana institutions have amongst the highest percentage rates of sex offenders than any other jail or prison or state hospital in the U.S. And so Idaho, remember Idaho, Oregon girl? Idaho has the highest percentage rates of child marriage. Okay, so and then when I was in Kansas, I was in that college town, Manhattan, and I was at the shelter, and some dude was talking about how he just found a trailer to move into because of mobile home. You could pay about the same amount of money for rent and utilities, and it's a bigger amount of space than staying in a regular apartment. And he was saying that he could invite other people to move in with him as long as they did not have any felonies. And I told him that straight up, because at the time I didn't have any felonies, and I told him straight up. I asked him, could I move in with him, because I was working at the same place he was working. And so I move in with him into this mobile home, and so anyways, he met this lady that was working as a cashier at like the dollar store or something in the town. And so the male dude, he brought over his niece. Okay. And his niece was from a town called Rogers, Arkansas. And Arkansas is like the number 3 top state to have the most percentage rates of what they call sex offenders. Okay. So I'm starting to notice a pattern here. Okay. And mind you, okay, you got Wilmington, Delaware, which is the number 1 U.S. city to have the most sex offenders. That's right by the ocean. And Delaware was the first state to be born. It was not New York State, because when you go to Delaware, you can see with everybody's license plate tag on the back of their vehicle, it says Delaware, the first state, something to the effect of Delaware was the first state. Okay, so I don't think, because I've been around that block 3 different times. 2 times before I was in a child marriage, once afterwards, and there was not one single time when I ever heard anyone say the word baby, toddler, diaper, sex offender, chomo, rapist. I never heard any of those negative words. And out of all the books I discovered through my travels, because I've discovered many darn good books, some unique books I found in one place that I haven't found in others. And I found this one called Verbal Abuse, Healing the Hidden Wound. Okay. Now the third time I went there, which was about 3 or 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, They put out some books. They put out like a couple of books. One was about hauntings, and then this other one was called Verbal Abuse: Healing the Hidden Wound, and it talks about a certain kind of verbal abuse where people try to use children unjustly as verbal abuse. Okay, so this is a region of the U.S. that was born first and that is way past its birthing stage. As the book called The European Dream talks about how America is still in its birthing stage. Okay, and so no, don't get me wrong. There was actually somebody. I take that back. There was actually somebody that was talking about. Oh, and he was black. He was like about my height. He was an overweight motherfucker, and he was not from there though. He was from Indiana. Indiana is filled with cheating, drug dealing, playboy, 304 fucking whores, dude. They project how they really are, which they are the real sex offenders. And so he apparently, and he was a truck driver. He's talking about everything, all these different things about his life. He's letting everybody know he's a truck driver for one thing, and he's all talking about, yeah, I let somebody hold my daughter, and he was all getting too friendly, holding her and this and that, and I ended up beating his ass or some shit, and I got locked up for two or 3 years or something like that. And but I remember he was overweight, and another thing, he was from fucking Indiana. Okay, those motherfuckers are second-class citizens with second-class behavior, punks. Okay. Yeah, so he was the only person I heard unjustly use children as verbal abuse, but he was not from there. Okay, for one thing, and another thing, when I checked into that shelter, the breakfast mission shelter in Wilmington, Delaware, the last time I went, they gave me an application for the shelter, to stay at the shelter, and it was just one page, but it asked me if I was a registered sex offender, which I obviously wasn't, and I'm not now, but and I think he might have kind of recapped that question orally. And then I think I heard one other dude kind of say to somebody else that, yeah, I think this one person got locked. He said something about, yeah, I know this one person that got in trouble or locked up for doing something inappropriate with a young girl. But he was not rude about it at all. He was not, because assertiveness means to state any concern in a non-intimidating way. Now, talking this out now and reflecting on this right now in this moment, I remember this character. He was short, and usually people that unjustly use children as verbal abuse, they're usually short and or overweight. Those are the main people. And so as I'm talking this out now and reflecting on this now, he was short, but he never copped no attitude with me. He never said any of those words I mentioned before to me. He never said chomo, sex offender, rapist. I never even heard him ever say that, even to that one dude. He just was saying that how he said the word inappropriate, and he is stuff like that, but nothing close to being rude. And I remember, because what happens is they have people that stay at the shelter overnight, and they have to go during the day. And then if you stay in the Christian program, you can stay in the building 24/7, but you have to do chores. And if you do chores, one of them you can do, is help serve the food, cook and serve the food. And I remember that one dude. Yeah, he served food to everybody, and when I went through the line, he was not rude to me at all. He was not rude to me at all, and I didn't even know this guy. He was quite the opposite. Yeah, because this really hits me just now too. Okay, because this is right by the ocean, right along that latitude line. Oregon, by the ocean, Delaware, Oregon, Delaware, right by the ocean, and then also towards the edge of the U.S., particularly by the ocean, Montana, Idaho, Oregon, Alaska, Maine, New Hampshire, Delaware, all those northern states. But the most open-minded people about interactions with young girls were right by the ocean, also in the north. But yeah, so now again, in Delaware, as I was getting to my point, in Delaware, drugs of all kinds are illegal on the state, federal, and local levels. So now when that niece came over to that place I was staying at in Manhattan, Kansas, when her uncle brought her, when the uncle brought his niece over, if I can spit that out, she was like part not Indian, because I tried to call it Indian, or I tried to call those people Indians, and this one person said, "We're not Indians, we're native." I could tell this young girl had to been part native, but I know she had to been part native and part Mexican. Okay, now just like that website called happierabroad.com will tell you, people from other countries act like Bambi, or I'm sorry, people from other countries act like characters from Disney movies, like that one called Bambi. And that's exactly how she interacted with me. And this is the first time I've ever had any young girl, a Lolita, the Lolita Express, as Jeffrey Epstein's plane was called, Lolita. This is the first time I've ever had a Lolita try to seduce me. Yeah, and so she was part native, part Mexican. And so I can remember that I was watching TV, watching a movie, and she was on the she was on the side of me. I'm facing this way. She was on the left side of me, on the back rest of the couch. And all of a sudden, she spreads her legs wide apart. She has these thin shorts on. I know she couldn't be wearing no panties, and she was trying to flash her pussy at me. And then one time I was sitting in that chair trying to watch a movie, and she acts just like one of those characters off of Bambi, and she comes right up next to me and just starts looking, like staring, like right at me, and I can feel her staring at me, and I can feel her vibes melting all into my vibes. Okay, and I try to play it cool, you know what I'm saying? I try to play hard to get, you know what I'm saying? And so yeah, and then like she would then lay on the couch and slap her pussy, slap her crotch while she still has clothes on. And anyways, this is the second video out of, looks like we're running out of time. Where there's gonna be more. We got more information coming your way here in a bit. We'll be right back.